Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. So in my last video, I mentioned that I have 2 copies of Sky Burial by Xinran, and but I didn't really mention how I ended up with 2 copies, and I think I'm just gonna talk a little bit about that in this video, and also just about the fact that this was not the only time I ended up with accidentally ended up with 2 copies of the same book. As it turned out, it had happened a few times, so I'm just gonna talk about those, a little bit of a random stories. So about Sky Burial. So the first one that I got was actually the smaller mass market paperback edition. I got this from a bookshop that was closing last year. I think it was closing in September, and it was really sad because it was actually my favorite. No, actually, this one, not the mass market paperback. This was the first copy that I got. It was from that bookstore that was closing in September, and it was really sad when that bookstore closed because I really loved that bookstore. I have bought from that bookstore since like years ago when I was still working in Johor Bahru, so that was like at least, I don't know, more than 3 years. Anyway, this was the first copy that I got, and then fast forward 3 months later, I actually forgot that I bought Sky Burial, and then I went to another book sale that happened at a different bookstore in Kuala Lumpur, and so I got this mass market paperback edition. When I got this one, I got it like at a really cheap price. I got it for 3 ringgit. Whereas this one, I got it for 10 ringgit because there was like a and I think there was discount as well. I didn't really remember, but I think there was discount. But this was really cheap. I got it for 3, and probably because of that, I conveniently forgot that I already owned this book. So that's how I ended up buying this. Now that's not the only layer to that story. There's actually another layer to that. So yep, I got this one from one store, I got this one from another store. Store A, store B, day C, day D. Okay, and guess what? I actually have another set of duplicates that I actually bought at the same time as these 2 books. So I got this mass market paperback edition of Out of Africa by Karen Blixen from that store that was closing in September. So I got this one on the same day. And fast forward 3 months later, when I bought this one, I also bought another copy of Out of Africa. So, and this one was also 3 ringgit. So basically, I actually got 2 sets of duplicate books at the same time, or at the same times. On the same set of stores. So yeah, that was kind of unfortunate, but I would say, at least with the case of Out of Africa, my consolation would be that at least the second edition that I got was actually a 2-in-1 book. So it's not just Out of Africa, but there is another follow-up book included in this edition called The Shadows on the Grass. Whereas this one is only Out of Africa. So there's that. yeah, basically that's just kind of like the story for 2 sets of my duplicates. Now I actually have more duplicates here that I just kind of want to show you guys. The other duplicate was this one. This is called Everything I Don't Remember by Jonas, Hassen, Khemiri. And this book was originally written in Swedish, translated to English by Rachel Willson-Broyles. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this one was something that I got from a mall at Mid Valley, which is an area, one of the areas in Kuala Lumpur. So I got this one used, and then I don't remember when I got this. And then sometime later, I went to KL Central, and there was actually a bookstore at KL Central. And I saw this, and when I saw this, I thought it was quite intriguing, and I didn't really understand why it was intriguing. I felt some sense of familiarity with this book. I thought maybe I've seen people talking about this book online, maybe on Instagram, maybe on YouTube, but later, after I've purchased it, and then after I've discovered that I've actually bought this book before, I suppose that sense of familiarity actually came from the fact that I've already bought it before. So yeah, that was the silly thing that I did when it comes to this book. Yeah, that's one set. Okay, another set is a classic. Well, actually, the other 2 sets I want to mention, both of them are classics. So this one is a Victorian classic. I got this one for 15 ringgit, but it was Penguin Classic, so I think it was worth it. This is Anthony Trollope's Can You Forgive Her? So far, I've only read one book by Anthony Trollope, and that was The Warden, which was quite short. And this one, in comparison, is quite long, but at the same time, because I really like The Warden, I actually got more books by Anthony Trollope as well. So, not just Can You Forgive Her, times 2, but I also have some on that shelf, there and there. I don't know. They're scattered in my room. So yeah, this edition I got it at for 15 ringgit, so that was quite nice. The original price was 46 ringgit, but this one was the price in 2016. Like, the person bought it in 2016. If I were to buy this edition new this year, 10 years later, right, I don't think it would cost me 46 ringgit. It would be like, what, at least 50, 60, 70 ringgit. You'll never know with Penguin Classics, but for sure they're going to be really expensive. So 15 was awesome. And yeah, certainly something that I was really interested in reading. I was so interested in it that when I saw this one online, I got it again. And I feel like this time, I have a better justification, aside from the fact that I forgot that I've already bought it. Another justification for this purchase was that, okay, it is the Red Spine Vintage. I don't think they published this Red Spine Vintage in this format now. They've sort of changed the format, I think, if I'm not mistaken. The design of the covers are of the vintage classics books are kind of different now, which, too bad, because I prefer this one. I don't really, I wouldn't say I dislike the new one, but I like this vintage last name kind of a format cover. But anyway, I find that the Anthony Trollope books published under these editions, they have like these really lovely pattern. I got one for Dr. Thorne. It was that yellow brown or yellow black kind of a floral pattern, and this one is also quite pretty, so that's why I bought it. yeah, aside from the fact that it was vintage classics, it also had this pretty cover. That's why I bought it. Also, I was genuinely interested in reading Anthony Trollope, even though until today I've not read any other than the Warden. So, yeah. and so I ordered this online. I got it. It didn't, it actually took me like many months later to actually discover that I now have 2 copies of Can You Forgive Her. Now, the other set of duplicates would be a very famous classic, and it's a much shorter work. In fact, I am currently reading this book now. This is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I was introduced to John Steinbeck when I was in secondary school. We actually had to read the novel The Pearl in our English class. I didn't really remember which grade or which form that was. I think it was form 3, which was like 15 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But yeah, we had to read The Pearl, and it was a really interesting story. But after that, I've not read anything by John Steinbeck, even though I've always been interested in reading his stuff, but maybe because of the fact that Steinbeck books are so ubiquitous whenever I visit any used bookstore, whether physical or online, and I just didn't really have that push to, that urgency to read anything by Steinbeck, because it felt like, anytime I want to read a Steinbeck book, I can just pick it up anytime because it will always be available. So that was just kind of like the sentiment that I'm feeling towards really well-known classics such as John Steinbeck. So yeah, this is the first copy that I got, and then after that I saw online, I forgot that I had already owned this, and then I saw this one. So now I have 2 copies of Mice and Men. But I'm happy to say that I have already started reading one of them. And yeah, talking about these duplicate books, it just kind of make me low-key realize that maybe the reason why I have these duplicate books is that I actually am really interested in reading these books. Something about these books just make me gravitate towards them twice. I'm not, it's kind of a different case than certain types of books that actually exudes a certain vibe that that make me think that I would definitely like those books. Now these books don't really put out that vibes, but those vibes aren't really reliable anyway. Sometimes they have those vibes, but I would end up not liking the book at all. That happened a few times with certain books in the past. I can remember it happened with Bonjour Tristesse by François Sagan, and it was a disappointment. And there have been many cases in which certain books, they just didn't really have those vibes, but I just feel like I gravitate towards them, and as it turns out, I ended up liking those books. So I hope that I would end up liking these books because I'm planning to read these soon. So I don't know, maybe I'll consider this as my unofficial TBR. Yeah, actually I have another one I just kind of want to mention, but I didn't really remember because I only have one copy here. Another copy is actually in Kuching. I bought that a few years ago when I was working in Johor Bahru, and when I moved to Kuching, I brought all of my books from that city back home. So the other copy is over there. The copy that I have here is this one. This is Jeanette Winterson's The PowerBook. Probably because it has such risque cover. Maybe that's why I was immediately moved to buy this. I'm not sure if I'll have the guts to read this book openly on my train commutes, but who knows. But it does look kind of intriguing, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I've only read one book by Jeanette Winterson. I really love that book, but for some reason I've only read one book by her, so that's kind of bizarre. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, I think that was the book that I read. So yeah, maybe this one will be my next Winterson book. Anyway, I guess that's all for this random video. I'll talk about books that I've already finished in a future video. I've not recorded anything yet, but I have finished 3 books, but they were short books, so so yeah, until then, thank you for listening, and then I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Happy reading, and I'll see you again in a different video. Bye.